Don't ignore this note from Elon Musk's mom, because sometimes the message you need most doesn't come from a billionaire, a celebrity, or a legend. It comes from someone who has lived long enough, fallen enough, risen enough, and witnessed enough human stories to understand what truly decides your destiny. It's not luck. It's not resources. It's not where you were born, what you inherited, or what the world told you your limits were. It's the spark that refuses to die inside you, the spark you keep trying to silence because you think the world won't understand it. But she would tell you, don't silence it, feed it. She would remind you that every extraordinary person you've ever admired began as someone ordinary who made an extraordinary decision, to keep going even when they should have given up. To trust themselves when no one else did, to believe their dream made sense even when it looked ridiculous. She raised someone who was mocked, doubted, dismissed, and called crazy more times than you can count. And she saw firsthand that the world only understands your vision after it succeeds, not before. So if the world doesn't understand you yet, that's not a sign to stop. That's a sign you're still in the beginning of your story, and that note you shouldn't ignore would tell you something powerful. Your life will not wait for you. Time is already moving. Days are already passing. And maybe you've been postponing your greatness, telling yourself later, soon, maybe one day. But she would look you right in the eye and say, if you don't start now, life will move on without the version of you that could have changed everything. Because potential that is never used becomes regret, and regret hurts far more than failure. She would tell you that she raised children in a world that rarely showed mercy, and the only things that ever worked were courage, consistency, and an unshakable belief that you deserve to shape your own destiny. You might feel like luck hasn't been on your side, but luck is not a starting point. It's a reward. It comes to those who dare to stay in the game long enough for the world to take notice. And she would encourage you to stay. Stay committed. Stay bold. Stay unreasonable about your goals. Because the reasonable people settle. The unreasonable people change history. She'd tell you that life will not hand you confidence, it will hand you challenges that force you to build it. And every time you rise from something you thought would break you, you become more unstoppable than you were before. The reason she wants you to hear this message isn't because she thinks you need motivation. Motivation fades. She wants you to develop direction, because direction stays. Direction pulls you forward even when you have no energy left. Direction gives you a place to aim your pain, your hope, your effort, your fear, and your dreams. You probably think sometimes that you're behind. That you should have achieved more by now. That others are moving faster. But she'd tell you that success has no timer and destiny has no age limit. Some people bloom at 18, some at 38, some at 68. And the world remembers all of them, but only if they bloomed. You are not late. You are not early. You are exactly on the page of your story you're meant to be on, but what matters is what you choose to write next. You can repeat old chapters or begin a new one. She would also remind you that discomfort is not your enemy, it's your signal that you are leveling up. Growth never feels good at first. New paths feel confusing, lonely, and overwhelming. But so did every major turning point in your life. Think back to everything you once feared that later became normal. Think about the problems you thought you'd never survive but eventually overcame so naturally. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. Your future self already knows this, and one day you'll look back and wonder why you doubted yourself so much. Her note would urge you to take yourself seriously even if others don't. People will always underestimate what they haven't seen you become yet. They judge you based on the chapter you are living, not the novel you are destined to write. But she would tell you that the massive dreams people laugh at are usually the ones worth pursuing. Small dreams rarely get mocked. Only the big ones do. She'd remind you that success is not about being fearless, it's about learning to walk with fear beside you instead of letting it sit on your chest. Fear is loud, but your purpose is louder if you let it speak. And she would tell you that confidence doesn't come from believing you will never fail, it comes from knowing you will survive every failure and rise better each time. And when you feel alone in your journey, she'd tell you that loneliness is sometimes the price of alignment. The higher you aim, the fewer people will stand next to you, not because you are wrong but because the air is thinner at higher altitudes. People who don't understand your mission are not your enemies, they're simply not meant to walk this part of the journey with you. And that's okay. You don't need a crowd. You need clarity. You don't need approval. You need persistence. You don't need permission. You need courage. She'd remind you that even the most successful people cried, doubted, struggled, failed, and hit walls that seemed impossible. But they continued. Continuation is the secret. Continuation is what makes people legendary. Continuation is the thing that separates those who dream from those who build. And the beautiful thing is that continuation is a choice, one available to you at every moment, including this one. She'd tell you that your story is far from over, no matter how tired you feel. She'd tell you that you still have chapters in you that the world needs to read. You have ideas the world has never seen, strengths you haven't used yet, resilience you haven't tested yet, victories you haven't tasted yet, and a life you haven't fully lived yet. You have more in you, not because someone says so, but because you can feel it. You might bury it under stress, fear, obligations, or doubt, but it's still there. That restless little flame is still alive. She would ask you to trust that flame. Fan it. Protect it. Feed it. Use it. Because that flame is how everything starts. Every invention, every breakthrough, every movement, every success story began with a flame inside someone who refused to let it go out, and she would remind you that what you do today matters more than what you did yesterday. If yesterday was heavy, let today be lighter. If yesterday was disappointing, let today be bold. If yesterday hurt, let today heal. Every sunrise is a reset button, don't waste it. She would want you to know that you are capable of more than you think, stronger than you feel, and closer to your breakthrough than you realize. Most people quit right before the moment things would have finally shifted. Don't be one of them. Hold on a little longer. Try one more time. Knock on one more door. Take one more step. You never know which effort becomes the one that changes everything. She'd tell you that the world is full of people who talk but few who act. Be one of the few. Be one of the brave. Be one of the persistent. And most importantly, be one of the people who listens, when life gives you a sign, when your intuition whispers, when your dreams call, and yes, when a mother who has watched impossible things become real tells you, don't ignore this moment. Don't ignore yourself. Don't ignore your potential, and maybe that's the real meaning of the note you must not ignore. You are meant for more, and it's time to rise toward it. She would tell you that the world has a strange way of testing you right before it blesses you. Just when you think you've reached your limit, life throws one more obstacle at you, not because it wants to break you, but because it wants to see whether you're ready to receive what you've been asking for. Dreams aren't handed to those who wish, they're handed to those who prove they're willing to withstand storms without losing sight of their destination. She watched her own child face storms so fierce that most people would have walked away, but he didn't. He kept going, not because he was fearless, not because he was always confident, but because he refused to betray the potential he felt inside. And she would remind you, don't betray yours. There is a moment in every person's journey when everything becomes quiet, when support fades, when applause disappears, and when you're left alone with your thoughts, your doubts, and your desires. That moment isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's life asking you a question: how badly do you really want this? And it's your answer to that question that shapes your future. She would tell you that it's okay to cry during that moment. It's okay to feel lost. It's okay to feel tired. But it's not okay to give up on yourself. Not after everything you've survived. Not after everything you've dreamed. Not after everything that still lives inside you. She would want you to understand that every great leap begins with a small step. People see rockets, companies, achievements, fame, but they don't see the first step, the early mornings, the moments of loneliness, the failures, the rejections, the nights spent awake wondering if anything will ever work. And she would tell you that you are in one of those steps right now. Even if you don't see progress yet, it's happening. Even if the results haven't shown up, the transformation has begun. Seeds grow in darkness before they rise toward the sun, and so do you. She'd tell you to stop being afraid of what others think. Opinions are the cheapest things in the world. Anyone can give one. And most people do without understanding your vision, your experience, or your purpose. If she had allowed the world's opinions to shape her child's path, he would have played small, lived quietly, blended in, and the world would have lost someone who reshaped entire industries. Your contribution might not look like his, but it matters just as much in the grand design of life. The world changes when people choose authenticity over approval. She would remind you that your story doesn't need to be perfect for it to be powerful. Some of the most inspiring lives began in chaos, pain, or confusion. What makes them inspirational isn't how they started, it's how they continued. Your past may be messy. Your present may be uncertain. But your future is unwritten and completely yours to shape. Don't let your beginnings define your endings. She would want you to release the belief that you must have everything figured out before you start. No one does. Not even the icons you admire. They took messy action. They learned through mistakes. They adjusted along the way. And the courage to start before you're ready is one of the most underestimated superpowers a human can possess. And she would tell you something deeply important. Your dream is not random. It came to you for a reason. Out of 7 billion people in the world, your dream visited you. It could have chosen someone else, but it didn't. That's not an accident, it's an invitation. A calling. A whisper from the future saying, you have what it takes. It's not your job to prove the whole path right now. It's your job to trust that the path will unfold with every step you take. She would remind you that pressure is a privilege. It means you're in the arena, you're trying, you're aiming higher than average. Average people don't feel pressure, only those who dare to rise beyond the ordinary do. If life feels heavy, it's because you're carrying potential that's bigger than your current comfort zone. And she would encourage you to keep expanding that zone, one brave decision at a time. She'd also tell you not to wait for motivation to show up every morning. Motivation is like weather, it changes constantly. Some days it shines. Some days it storms. But discipline is your climate. Discipline is the force that keeps your inner world steady even when the outer world is unpredictable. She watched her son build discipline long before success arrived, and she would tell you that you need it too. Not because you're weak, but because you're powerful, and power must be guided, not wasted. She would want you to take your dreams seriously, not as fantasies but as projects. Projects that need structure, time, effort, sacrifice, and commitment. Projects that might demand you to give up comfort, entertainment, or temporary satisfaction. Dreams become real when you begin treating them like responsibilities instead of wishes. And she would remind you that your journey is unique. Comparing yourself to others is like comparing a sunrise to a star. They are both beautiful, but they shine at different times. You don't need to rush. You don't need to compete. You don't need to measure your worth against someone else's timeline. You just need to keep moving. She'd tell you that the world needs people like you, people with fire in their hearts, ideas in their minds, resilience in their spirit, and the courage to believe in better possibilities. Even if your dream touches just one life, even if your effort inspires just one person, even if your courage helps one soul rise, that ripple matters. The biggest changes always begin with small ripples. As her note continues, she would remind you that setbacks are not signs of failure, they are signs that you are on a real journey. Smooth roads rarely lead anywhere meaningful. The bumps, the twists, the struggles, they are shaping you, sharpening you, preparing you. If everything was easy, you would never grow. If everything was predictable, you would never discover your true strength. And she would tell you that you are stronger than even your best days have shown. She would want you to stop waiting for perfect conditions. Nothing will ever be perfect. Start anyway. Move anyway. Try anyway. Imperfection is part of the process. And every imperfect attempt brings you closer to a moment that will look perfect in hindsight. She'd tell you to be careful with your words, especially the ones you speak to yourself. You are listening even when you don't realize it. If you tell yourself you're not enough, your mind begins to shrink. If you tell yourself you can't do something, your body believes you. But if you tell yourself you're capable, worthy, strong, intelligent, and resilient, those seeds grow too. And she would remind you that the mind is the greatest tool or the greatest prison, depending on how you use it, and she'd ask you something simple but powerful: when did you stop believing in yourself? Who taught you to doubt your own brilliance? Because no child begins life thinking they aren't enough. Doubt is learned, and if it can be learned, it can be unlearned. You can unlearn fear. You can unlearn insecurity. You can unlearn hesitation. And you can rebuild yourself into the person you were always meant to be. She'd tell you that the world rewards those who keep showing up. Those who keep trying. Those who don't let no stop them. Every rejection is redirection. Every failure is instruction. Every delay is protection. Life is not working against you, it's working with you, shaping your path in ways you can't yet see, and she would want you to remember that sometimes the difference between where you are and where you want to be is just one decision, a decision to push a little more. Believe a little deeper, risk a little further, and step a little braver. She would tell you that you don't need extraordinary circumstances to become extraordinary. People always think greatness comes from perfect alignments, right time, right resources, right people, right opportunities. But she has seen something different. She has seen greatness born in scarcity, in struggle, in uncertainty, in pain, in loneliness, in tiny apartments where dreams were bigger than reality. She has seen greatness come from people who had no roadmap except conviction and no support except their own determination. And she would look at you and say, "You already have enough to begin. You already have enough to rise." She would want you to release the idea that you must wait for permission. Permission is an illusion. No one owns your life except you. No one gets to decide what you're capable of. People may discourage you, doubt you, misunderstand you, criticize you, or underestimate you, but their opinions do not change your potential. They never have. Every time you let someone else's doubt stop you, you give them power that doesn't belong to them. And she would tell you it's time to reclaim that power. She would tell you to nurture your curiosity. Curiosity is the birthplace of innovation, discovery, and possibility. When you allow yourself to wonder, explore, question, imagine, you open doors that most people don't even realize exist. Children are born curious, but adults often silence their own curiosity because the world teaches them to play it safe. She would tell you, don't play safe with your dreams. Play bold. Play expansive. Play committed. The people who achieve the impossible are the ones who stay curious long after the world tells them to be realistic, and she would remind you that you don't need loud progress for your growth to be real. Sometimes the most powerful transformations happen in silence. When no one is watching, when no one is praising you, when no one is cheering, those are the moments that build character. Those are the moments that turn discipline into destiny. She would tell you that real success is built in the invisible hours, in the effort no one sees, in the sacrifices that go unrecognized. Keep going in those quiet moments, they matter more than you know. She would ask you to stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You are not here to fit into anyone's expectations. You are not here to live someone else's script. You are not here to dim your own brilliance because others fear their own potential. She would tell you that shrinking never leads to fulfillment. Expansion does. Growth does. Stepping into your power does. You were not designed to be invisible, you were designed to be impactful. She would tell you that life will present you with two paths, the path of comfort and the path of courage. Comfort feels good but leads nowhere new. Courage feels uncomfortable but leads to everything you've ever wanted. And she would remind you that every great story starts at the edge of your comfort zone. Cross that edge. Walk into the unknown. Trust that you will learn, adapt, grow, and rise as you move forward. She would want you to understand that failure is not a verdict. It's a tool. Every failure teaches you something school never could. It reveals weaknesses you need to strengthen, opportunities you need to explore, strategies you need to refine, and resilience you didn't know you had. Failure is feedback. Failure is fuel. Failure is the universe whispering, not this way, try another. And she would tell you to listen, not collapse. She would remind you that the people who achieve greatness are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who fail, adjust, and continue. Because success is not about avoiding mistakes, it's about extracting wisdom from them. It's about turning pain into progress, confusion into clarity, and setbacks into stepping stones. She would tell you that if you ever feel stuck, it's not because you lack potential, it's because you've outgrown your old environment, your old habits, your old patterns. Growth always feels like being stuck at first. But stuckness is not the end, it's the signal that transformation is happening within you. She would encourage you to lean into that transformation instead of running from it. She would remind you that your mind is more powerful than you realize. Whatever you repeat becomes your reality. If you keep telling yourself you're not ready, you'll stay unready. If you keep telling yourself you're unlucky, you'll miss the opportunities in front of you. But if you tell yourself you are capable, evolving, improving, learning, and worthy, your mind will begin to arrange your actions around those truths. And eventually, your reality will match your belief. She would tell you to practice gratitude, even on difficult days. Gratitude isn't pretending everything is perfect, it's acknowledging that even in the worst moments, there are still reasons to keep going. Gratitude strengthens you. It grounds you. It protects your spirit from bitterness and keeps your heart open to possibility. And she would remind you that a grateful mind creates an abundant life. She would tell you that patience is one of the greatest strengths you can develop. Not passive patience that waits without effort, but active patience that works consistently while trusting the process. She would remind you that every long-term success requires seasons of silence, struggle, and slow progress. She watched her son go through those seasons for years before the world noticed him. And she would tell you that your season of recognition will come too, but only if you stay committed long enough. She would want you to stop apologizing for wanting more out of life. Wanting more does not make you ungrateful, it makes you ambitious. Wanting more means you see possibilities that others ignore. It means you believe in your own potential. It means your soul is restless for a reason. And she would tell you never to let anyone make you feel guilty for dreaming boldly. She would remind you that the world is moved forward by the dreamers, the builders, the thinkers, the risk-takers, the innovators, the ones who refuse to settle. And she would look at you with full belief and say, "You are one of them. Stop pretending you're not." She would tell you to take care of your energy. Protect it. Guard it. Don't waste your fire on people who don't appreciate it, on fears that don't help you, on habits that drain you, on environments that limit you. Your energy is the most valuable currency you own. Where you invest it shapes your entire future, and she would remind you that healing is a part of success. You cannot rise if you're carrying the weight of old wounds. You cannot grow if you're trapped in past pain. She would tell you to release the versions of yourself that were shaped by survival and step into the version shaped by purpose. Healing is not a sign of weakness, it's a process of reclaiming your strength. She would tell you that somewhere inside you is a version of yourself you haven't met yet, powerful, confident, unstoppable, aligned, fulfilled. And every choice you make either brings you closer to that version or pulls you further away. Choose the choices that elevate you. Choose the habits that strengthen you. Choose the actions that match your future, not your fear. And she would end this part of her message with one reminder: you are not done yet. Not even close. She would tell you that dreams don't come to life in a straight line. They twist. They turn. They stall. They confuse you. They frighten you. And sometimes they feel like they're drifting out of reach. But the truth she wants you to understand is that dreams don't drift away, you drift away from them when doubt becomes louder than desire. So she would encourage you to turn back toward your dream, even if it feels far right now. Distance doesn't matter when direction is right. If you take one step today, you are already closer than yesterday. She would remind you that you cannot rise while clinging to old limitations. Every time you tell yourself this is just who I am, you trap yourself in a version of you that no longer fits. But life is not about staying who you were, it's about becoming who you were meant to be. And she would tell you that reinvention is not only allowed, it is necessary. You can begin again at any age. You can start a new chapter at any moment. You can make a decision today that completely transforms the direction of your life. She would tell you that discipline is the language of self-respect. When you commit to your goals, when you show up for yourself consistently, when you keep promises to your future self, you are proving your worth to yourself. And she would remind you that the habits you choose today determine the opportunities you receive tomorrow. Every small act of discipline builds a bridge toward the life you want. She would want you to understand that walking alone for a while is not a tragedy, it's an investment in your future. Lone seasons often appear when you are leveling up. They are not signs that you are unwanted, they are signs that you are being prepared. You are being separated from distractions, from energies that drain you, from environments that don't support your evolution. She would tell you to embrace that solitude. Because it is shaping you into someone stronger, clearer, and more capable. She would remind you that the world will not applaud you in the beginning. Nobody cheers for the seed underground. Nobody claps for the root before it breaks the soil. But that doesn't mean nothing is happening. Growth is quiet before it becomes visible. Transformation is private before it becomes undeniable. She'd tell you to let your progress be silent for now, the results will speak loudly later. She would tell you that life will always test whether you really want what you claim to want. It will ask you to show your seriousness through your actions, not your words. It will push you to show persistence, not just passion. It will challenge you to choose discipline over distraction. And she would remind you that the universe honors those who prove their dedication through consistency. She would want you to stop waiting for motivation and start depending on momentum. Motivation is emotional, it rises and falls. Momentum is mechanical, it grows with every action you take, no matter how small. If you can take one step today, you build momentum. If you can take another tomorrow, momentum grows. And momentum can carry you through days when motivation disappears. She would tell you that comparison is one of the greatest thieves of joy and potential. The moment you compare your path to someone else's, you lose sight of your own. She would remind you that everyone's timeline is different. Everyone's challenges are different, everyone's journey is different. What matters is not how fast you go, but how committed you remain. Your life is not a race, it's a mission, she would remind you that your voice matters. Your presence matters. Your dreams matter. Your journey matters. Even if the world hasn't recognized your value yet, that does not diminish it. Value is inherent. Value is internal. Recognition is external. And recognition always arrives late. But your worth is present right now. She would want you to forgive yourself, for the mistakes you made, for the time you wasted, for the chances you didn't take, for the years spent doubting yourself. Forgiveness is freedom. When you forgive yourself, you release the chains that have kept your spirit heavy. You allow yourself to rise without dragging your past behind you. And she would tell you that you deserve that freedom. She would tell you that the fear you feel isn't a sign to stop, it's a sign to move. Fear appears when you stand at the edge of expansion. When you fear failure, it means you're on the verge of something new. When you fear judgment, it means your dreams are bigger than your comfort zone. And she would remind you that courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward despite it. She would remind you that you don't need to have a perfect plan to begin. Plans evolve. Strategies change. Roads shift. But clarity comes through action, not overthinking. Every step you take reveals the next step. And she would tell you that the only way to get closer to your dream is to begin from exactly where you are now. She would tell you that opportunities rarely come fully formed. They appear as small choices, small ideas, small nudges, small conversations. Pay attention to those small moments, they often carry the seeds of your biggest breakthroughs. The beginning of something great often looks insignificant. But she would remind you that greatness rarely announces itself at the start, it becomes visible only after persistence. She would want you to build a future that makes your younger self proud and your older self grateful. A future where you don't settle for mediocrity when excellence is within reach. A future where you look back and say, I gave my best. I tried. I believed. I didn't quit. She would tell you that this is the kind of future worth fighting for. She would remind you that life is not asking you to be fearless, it's asking you to be brave. Fear appears automatically, bravery is a choice. And your greatness depends on the choices you make when fear is loudest. She would tell you that you are stronger than you think, more capable than you know, and closer to your breakthrough than you realize. Most breakthroughs happen quietly, unexpectedly, in moments when you almost gave up. She'd tell you, hold on. Your turning point might be closer than you imagine. She would tell you that every chapter of your life has prepared you for something greater. Even the chapters you wish you could erase. Even the ones that broke you. Even the ones that made you question everything. She would remind you that strength is not born in comfort, it is born in challenge, in perseverance, in rising again and again when life knocks you down. And she would tell you that all those moments you survived were not wasted, they were shaping the resilience you need for where you are going next. She would remind you that your story didn't come this far only to stop here. You didn't endure sleepless nights, heartbreaks, doubts, and disappointments just to quit at the edge of breakthrough. She would tell you that the very moment you feel like giving up is often the moment right before everything shifts. And she would look at you with the soft confidence of someone who has watched miracles unfold and say, "Don't stop now. You're closer than you think." She would tell you that the world needs your voice, your ideas, your creativity, your ambition. Not a smaller version of you. Not a muted version. Not a diluted version. The world needs the real you, the one who dreams fearlessly, the one who dares boldly, the one who has survived everything and still chooses hope. You were not made to be average. You were made to leave an imprint. She would remind you that you are not alone, even on the days it feels like you are walking in darkness. There are people you haven't met yet who will be grateful that you didn't give up. There are opportunities waiting for you that will make sense of every struggle. There are chapters ahead that will make you smile at how far you've come. You just need to keep going long enough to meet them. She would tell you that your purpose is bigger than your obstacles. Purpose gives you courage. Purpose gives you clarity. Purpose gives you the strength to keep moving even when the path is uncertain. And she would tell you that deep down, you already know what your purpose is. It's the thing that keeps returning to your mind no matter how many times you push it away. It's the idea that haunts you in the best possible way. It's the dream that refuses to die. That is your calling. And she would tell you it's time to answer it. She would want you to promise yourself something, to stop abandoning the person you want to become. To stop shrinking from opportunities because they scare you. To stop letting self-doubt speak louder than your destiny. She would urge you to honor the future version of you, the one who is counting on you to be strong today. And she would tell you that when you make that promise, everything begins to shift. She would tell you to be kind to yourself, because growth takes time. You're allowed to stumble. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to learn at your own pace. Progress is progress, even if it's slow. Healing is healing, even if it's messy. Rising is rising, even if it's quiet. And she would remind you that the only thing that truly matters is that you never stop moving forward. She would tell you that success is not built on talent alone, it's built on stamina. On the ability to keep chasing your vision no matter how long it takes. On the courage to believe in yourself even when no one else does. On the willingness to try again after every setback. She would tell you that you already have that stamina inside you, you just need to trust it. She would remind you that your dream doesn't need the whole world to believe in it. It needs only one person, you. Every great person started with a lone belief, a spark that felt too small, too fragile, too unlikely. But they protected that spark, and eventually, it became a fire. She would tell you that you have a spark too, and it's time to protect it with everything you have. She would want you to look at your life and realize something profound. Nothing is over for you. Nothing is too late. Nothing is impossible. You are not done. You are still becoming. You are still unfolding. You are still rising. The chapters ahead of you are filled with possibilities you haven't imagined yet. She would tell you that at the end of everything, after all the success, all the recognition, all the achievements, the most important victory you will ever have is the victory over yourself. The moment you choose courage over fear, discipline over distraction, progress over comfort, belief over doubt, that is the moment your entire life begins to change, and as her message reaches its end, she would give you one final reminder, spoken not with urgency but with deep certainty.